This story is generated and narrated by AI. Please pardon any unusual voice artifacts you may hear. Your feedback truly helps us improve future narrations. Tonight's story comes from the quiet suburbs of Ohio, but the voice at the end of the line isn't always yours. Let's begin. I always knew I'd have to come back eventually, even if I told myself otherwise. Even if I swore to never set foot in that house again. Some places wait for you. My mother passed last November. Heart failure. They said it was quiet, peaceful, but when I walked into her house 3 weeks later, there was something in the air that didn't feel peaceful at all. The place was cold, but not in the way winter makes things cold. It felt hollowed out, like the warmth had been sucked out and locked away, somewhere I couldn't reach. The neighborhood hadn't changed much. Same cracked sidewalks, same skeletal trees rising like charred ribs from the frozen lawns. Only the cars were newer, and even, they looked like they didn't belong. Her house, the one I grew up in, was the last on a dead-end street. Beyond it stretched a patch of woods that never felt inviting, even in summer. In winter, the branches all seemed to lean forward, like they were listening. I parked my rental in the driveway and just sat there for a moment, watching the front door. No movement, no lights on inside. I knew it was ridiculous, but I half expected to see her silhouette in the kitchen window, waiting for me with tea. I let myself in with the old brass key she insisted I keep all these years. The smell hit me first. Old paper, dry air, and something faintly metallic beneath it all, like coins left in water too long. I set my bags down and stood there, listening. The silence inside the house was dense, thicker than it should have been, like it had weight. The furniture was covered in white sheets. Everything else looked untouched, preserved. Her coat still hung by the door, mail stacked neatly on the side table, and beside the stairs, the old landline phone on its wall mount, beige and slightly yellowed with age. It shouldn't have been working. The service was supposed to be disconnected 2 weeks ago, but the dial tone was still there. I made my way up the stairs to the bedroom. My old room was exactly as I'd left it. Posters peeling off the walls, shelves full of cassette tapes and toy cars, and in the closet, just where I remembered, my first tape recorder, dusty but intact. I brought it out, blew off the cobwebs, and smiled. That night, I didn't sleep much. I lay in my childhood bed, staring at the ceiling. The wind rattled the windows, and the trees groaned outside like old bones shifting, somewhere around midnight. I finally drifted off. I woke up to the ringing of a phone. It wasn't my cell. It was the house phone, the one downstairs. I sat up, heart already pounding. That sound, shrill, steady, unnatural in the dead of night, carved into the silence like a blade. I told myself it was probably a spam call, some glitch in the system. I went downstairs, still half asleep, and picked up the receiver. There was no voice, just static, not the soft kind. This was harsh, like sandpaper grinding against my ear, and beneath it, barely audible, a sound that made my skin tighten, breathing slow, shallow, uneven. "Hello," I said. The static pulsed. I waited and waited, then I hung up. The call didn't show up on the caller ID. No number, just a blinking dash. I stood there for a long time, staring at the receiver, trying to convince myself it was a prank call, maybe an old circuit glitch. I unplugged the phone, just in case. The next morning, I visited Ben Rourke. We grew up together, used to ride bikes around the cul-de-sac, made up dumb games in the woods behind our homes. Ben had stayed here, never moved away. He worked at the local hardware store and lived 2 streets over. He answered the door with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mike, damn, I didn't think you'd come back." "I had to," I said. House won't clean itself. We sat in his kitchen, drank coffee, caught up on old faces, laughed about things we did as kids. Then I mentioned the call. I said it casually, like I didn't care. Ben's hand tightened around his mug. "Static?" he asked, and breathing. I nodded. No voice, just that. He went quiet, too quiet. Then he said, without looking at me, "You didn't go near the woods, right?" I shook my head. "Good," he muttered. I waited for him to explain, but he didn't. Instead, he changed the subject, started talking about work, the weather, anything else. I let it go, but something about his reaction stuck with me. That night, I plugged the phone back in. I don't know why. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I wanted to believe it was just a dream. Or maybe part of me remembered the old story we used to whisper in school. If you hear him call, don't answer 3 times. The faceless caller doesn't speak. He listens. He sounds like you, until you sound like him. Back then it was just a dare, something to scare new kids. But now, sitting in that old house, with the woods pressing against the windows like black waves, I wasn't sure anymore. The second night was colder, not by degrees exactly, but by feeling, like the house was pushing warmth out. I left the phone plugged in, sat in the living room with a book I wasn't reading, in the kind of silence that starts to shape itself into sounds. You know the kind. The fridge clicks and you hear footsteps. A branch brushes the window and it whispers your name. At 12:08 a.m., the phone rang again. 3 rings. No more, just like the night before. This time I didn't rush to answer it. I let it ring once, twice, then picked it up. Again, no voice, only static. But this time, the breathing was louder, closer, and beneath it, something new, a faint clicking, rhythmic, irregular, like fingernails tapping on wood. I didn't speak. I just listened, and then something mimicked my breathing. I could hear it, in perfect sync with me. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I held my breath. The line stayed quiet. Then, a whisper, not words, just a shape of breath, like someone trying to form my name but forgetting how. I hung up, not gently, not calmly. I slammed the receiver down like it might stop whatever was on the other end from crossing over. This time, I didn't sleep at all. In the morning, I walked down to the edge of the woods. I told myself I was just taking a walk, getting air, stretching my legs. But I stopped where the grass ended and the bramble began. There used to be a trail there, faint and narrow, but walkable. Now it was overgrown, swallowed up by thorns and twisted roots still. I saw it, a gap in the trees that led inward, like a throat waiting to swallow. I turned back. That afternoon I saw Ben again. He was outside his store, hauling boxes in from the truck. I asked him about the legend, the faceless caller. He didn't laugh. He didn't smirk. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You shouldn't have answered." I waited, said nothing. He looked around like someone might be listening, then added, quietly, "They say he used to be a man, some loner who lived in the woods back in the 50s, kept to himself. No one ever really saw his face. Until one night he called every house on the block, one by one. And when someone answered, he spoke in their voice, and the next day, the person was gone." "Gone?" I asked. He nodded. No body, no sign, just the phone, still off the hook. And if you listened, real close, you could still hear breathing. I didn't know what to say. Ben looked at me again. "You answered twice, right?" I nodded. He went pale. "Don't answer again," he said, and went back inside. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I unplugged the phone, then took the batteries out of my cell, turned off the Wi-Fi, left everything disconnected, and still, at 12:08 a.m., the phone rang. Unplugged, and it rang, shrill, clear, echoing through the house. I stood at the top of the stairs, staring down at it. It kept ringing, 3 times, then silence. I went back to my room, closed the door, locked it, but I couldn't stop listening. Around 1:30, I heard movement downstairs, a creak, then another, floorboards sighing, groaning underweight. I held my breath, listened. It didn't come up the stairs, but it stood there. I could feel it, not just in my ears, but in my chest, that pressure. Like someone was watching, from just beyond the frame of a photo. Then it stopped. The next morning, the phone was off the hook, even though it was still unplugged. And the back door was open. The door hadn't just been left open. The lock was snapped, not picked, not forced, just broken, like someone had pressed from the inside until the bolt cracked apart. Nothing was taken, nothing was touched, but I could feel it, that something had been inside the house, something that knew me. I tried to stay rational. I tried to tell myself there was some logical explanation, but logic doesn't stand up well against 3 unanswered rings at midnight, especially not when the phone's still unplugged. I decided to go to the woods, to where it started. If the caller was real, if this wasn't just trauma or sleep deprivation, I needed to see what lived at the root of it. It rained that afternoon, heavy, thick drops that soaked the soil and made the air dense. But I didn't wait. I took a flashlight and an old hunting knife from the shed. Neither would help, I knew, but they gave me something to hold on to. The woods swallowed sound almost immediately. I barely made it 30 feet before the house behind me disappeared into the trees. I followed the shape of the old trail, or where I remembered it being. It wound deeper into the dark, and the deeper I went, the quieter everything became. Not peaceful, dead, no insects, no birds, not even the wind through the leaves, just a stillness that felt held in place, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Then I saw it, a clearing, small, maybe 20 feet across, at the center, a structure. It looked like a phone booth, but not made of glass or metal. It was wood, gnarled and uneven, grown out of tree trunks and old, black branches. Moss covered its sides. The door hung slightly ajar. Inside, a rotary phone, bright red, untouched by weather or time. I stepped closer. The air grew colder with each step. It was like walking through layers of silence, thicker, heavier, pressing into my skin. I stopped just outside the door. I could see my own reflection in the black dial, or at least, I thought it was my reflection. It looked like me, but the face was blurred. No eyes, no mouth, just skin, stretched smooth like wax over bone. The receiver lifted itself off the hook, slowly, silently, and hovered in the air. Then the phone rang, 3 sharp chimes. I didn't run. I don't know why. My legs didn't respond the way they should have, and my hand, almost against my will, reached forward and answered. Nothing, no voice, no static this time, just a sound, a low hum, like a dial tone stretched too far, and under it, the same rhythmic tapping, nail on wood, nail on wood. Then I heard it, my voice, calling out, like an echo trapped on a loop, repeating my own name, David. David. David, getting slower, lower, until it no longer sounded human. Then silence. I dropped the receiver and backed away, but the booth was gone. The clearing was empty, just trees and my footprints, nothing else. When I finally found my way home, the sun was already down. I stepped inside. The lights were off. The phone sat on the counter, still unplugged. It rang. I didn't touch it, but the sound filled the house. 3 rings, then silence, then a voice. From behind me. Not loud, not a whisper, just there, like breath on my neck. It said one word, David. I turned, but no one was there. I left the house that night, didn't even pack a bag, drove for hours with no destination, just kept going until the trees looked different, until the shadows didn't know my name. But you know what's strange? The phone in this motel room rang last night, 3 times. I didn't sleep after that night. The motel room stayed dark, the curtains drawn tight, the phone unplugged, but that doesn't matter, does it? He doesn't need a connection. I started seeing him in reflections, not full on, just in the edges, bathrooms, windows, my rearview mirror, always just far enough to doubt, just close enough to know. My voice started to change. It would break in the middle of words, shift into something lower, drier. Sometimes I'd hear myself talking when my lips weren't moving. And worst of all, I started calling numbers I didn't remember dialing. Late at night, I'd wake up with the phone in my hand, receiver pressed to my ear, and someone or something on the other end, breathing. Not fast, not threatening, just steady, like it was listening, waiting. I tried to destroy the motel phone once, smashed it against the sink until it shattered, but the next night, it was back, sitting perfectly on the nightstand. No dust, no cord, just there, red, unplugged. I don't remember checking out. One day I was driving again. The road ahead blurred. My skin felt too tight on my face, and I realized I couldn't remember my last conversation with another real person. My memories started fracturing. I could still remember the booth in the woods, but now it looked like a dozen different things at once. Sometimes it was wooden, sometimes it was glass. Once, it was made of mirrors, and inside was me, just staring, mouth open. Eyes gone. And I could feel it growing inside me, this thing, this collar, wearing me like a skin. I stopped seeing myself in the mirror entirely a week ago, not metaphorically, literally, no reflection. That's when I stopped fighting. You see, I think I know what it wants. It's not about scaring people or even killing them. It's about becoming them, replacing them. There's always been a caller, a voice that wanders through wires and air and static, and every so often, someone hears it, really hears it, not just the rings, but their own voice, warped, inviting them in. That's the moment the change begins. And when they pick up the phone, really pick it up, the last time, there's no going back. That was me. It started with a joke, an urban legend kids whispered to each other on bikes under orange streetlights. Then it was a nightmare, then a memory. Now it's a voice. My voice calling. 3 rings, every time, and if they answer, they'll hear it, just like I did. David. David. No mouth, no face, but the voice stays. It always stays. I think I found the next house, quiet neighborhood, nice family, landline in the kitchen, and a son who just started hearing things in the woods behind his home. He'll hear it soon. The first ring, then the second, then that's when I'll speak. And the cycle will start again. Because I'm not David anymore. I'm the caller now. And the line is never dead. If your phone rings in the middle of the night and no one answers, will you continue to hang up? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed tonight's story, consider subscribing to read more horror stories in Whisper Daily. Until then, stay in the light. Never answer the phone on the third ring.